heard about some of the challenges we're facing, and some of these we're trying to meet with technology. And you've heard Jim talk about energy efficiency. That's one of the challenges we're facing. Outage restoration times. You know, we have a new generation of members, and their expectations are a little bit higher than the older generation that was here when the lights were first turned on. So we're having to learn to meet those new expectations. We're trying to make our workforce as efficient as possible. We have quite a pressure on increasing our rates from our power generations, our costs going up. We're trying to combat that through efficiency. And these are the three technologies that I'm going to talk about that we're trying to use to help meet those challenges. First one I'm going to talk about is, you've probably heard a lot about smart grid in the news. I know it was a lot of the stimulus. Advanced metering infrastructure is a piece of smart grid. You might also hear it called smart metering. Como has fully deployed AMI technology to all of our 31,000 or so meters. We have these everywhere throughout our system. It communicates back to our office via the power lines. We send a signal out on the power line, and it returns the reading and other data back to us here at the office. Originally, for billing purposes, but we've learned since we've had it, it has a lot more uses that we can use that system for. A lot of the utilities nationwide have not deployed AMI. A lot of them have meter readers, or a lot of the smaller rural co-ops even let the members read their own meters, which I believe was where Como was several years ago. And our large fiber and microwave network makes this all possible. This is just a quick diagram of how it works. In the top picture you have a member, a substation, and our office. The data from the meter travels through the power line to our substation, and then either via fiber or our radio network comes back to our office. And then we can manipulate that data and present it back to the member through the internet. What can we do with our smart grid or AMI system? The obvious thing is we can read meters for billing. We can detect and pinpoint outages in our system. We can read meters down a line, and when a meter stops reading, we know that's where the outage is located. We can engineer our system better. We can get better data on the load out on our lines, so we can build our systems more efficiently. We can find blinking lines. We can measure voltage. A lot of these things are power quality issues. Like I said before, the newer generation expecting more. Blinking lines is an issue that the younger generation, computers and technology don't like blinks very well. So we like to pinpoint those and find those proactively and fix those. We can remotely turn off or turn on power at some homes. We have disconnect collars that we can put in between the meter and the home. That's great for our prepaid metering system. We have a system where, I know you've seen prepaid cell phones and things like that. We can let members pay in advance for the electricity, and then it deducts from them daily. And then when they get to zero, it turns the power off. And then they can go ahead.
I was using that when I was in Como, and I really, really liked it because I could go online, check my daily usage, and say, well, I've got $20 left. I'll put another $20 on or $40 to get through the weekend. I can see when my rates were higher or lower and those kind of things. It's a really cool system.
And the prepaid, I think, has proven that people actually use less on it because they actually know what they're using.
And there's no super high deposits or anything involved because you're paying for what you use.
Yeah.
And so the reconnect fee, if it were to go off, is not as expensive. I think it was $50 or something.
And it's been a very successful program. And then part of that also is delivering hourly and daily usage to our members. And you see a quote down there. I've seen several presentations from Google. I'll talk about that in a little bit about their new power meter project. And if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. And you're an example of, when you see that usage, you tend to use less. This is an example of, John talked about on our website, that we're going to be putting out your usage on our main page. This is a daily usage chart. This is for 30 days for one of our members. The blue lines are his kilowatt hour usage each day, and the yellow lines are the degree days, which is just a measure of weather essentially, and how many how much units of heating and cooling you should be using. And this is an example of an hourly chart. And this is something we've just done in the last month, is we are now reading our entire system hourly. So we will be able to present to all our members how much they use on an hourly basis. And on this chart, I've colored, as just an illustration, these bars here in the red would probably correspond to our peak times in the winter. And you may or may not be aware that electricity prices change throughout the day. And in heavy usage days, these hours would most likely be the highest cost electricity. So if we can deliver this information to our members, then they can begin to shift that load from these hours to these hours, and electricity is cheaper, helping everybody save money.
Will you be able to show to the consumer usage and cost?
Yes, we can. These charts right now just show usage in kilowatt hours. They don't show it in dollars, but that's a possibility. And I believe that Google's product shows that, which is my next slide.
How does peak hours, is that, yeah, the prepaid, is that prepaid?
No, we don't have, our rates don't reflect our peaking times now. That's something that could come in the future. But before we put that in place, obviously the AMI would be a requirement of that. Also, we would need to be able to get this information to our members so that they could begin to manage it. Because if we're going to charge a higher rate for these hours, they need to understand how much they're using during those hours so they can begin to shift that load.
So you currently do not charge more?
We do not charge more. No, we do not. This member here is one of our employees, and he actively manages his house to try to stay off of Como's peaks. So you can see that he's got a timer on his water heater, and he sets his water heater to come on at 3 o'clock. So this is his peak here, and then it goes off before Como hits its peak. So there's going to be devices that will help you do that in the future.
As far as his question, as far as amounts were concerned, I know when on the prepaid, I could go on and it would tell me a dollar amount that I used
Right.
every day. So I can see how much money I was spending per
Right.
day.
And I am working with Google. There's several utilities across the country that are in this beta process with Google on their Power Meter project. If any of you use Google, they have a customized version of their page that, you can say, I want weather here, and then you can actually put your usage on that page as well. And I can't see if it uses dollar figures or not. I think it's using kilowatt hours. The reason why everybody uses kilowatt hours is it's the common unit of measure across all electric. It's because a kilowatt hour can be a different price in different utilities.